We're going to give it a couple minutes to get folks a chance to get all situated, and we will start the webinar here in about 2 minutes. I don't see the mute button. There it is. All right. Well, welcome to this month's webinar. I'm Shane Barber with VEREO Impact. We picked a different topic this month. Our topics will range between continuous improvement or organizational effectiveness. But this topic, it's how much cost our meetings really doing to the organization. So, and it's how do you know how much they're costing the organization? So we'll go through it today. We'll look for questions. Again, this is being recorded so we can send it out so people can watch it from the leisure of the seat that they're in today, or tomorrow if they didn't get a chance to tune in. So we'll get rolling here. I can get my computer to operate. Sorry about that, everybody. All right, so the cost of meetings, I think it's the 4 M's in my mind. The 4 M's in how costly meetings can be is pretty intuitive, but it's minutes. How many minutes a year are we spending in meetings? Manpower, how many people are in those meetings? And I don't think there's anybody on the line or anybody on the planet that wants to sit through an ineffective meeting when they could have been getting work done. Work doesn't sleep, and time is not infinite. And then money and the cost of it. So, you know, there are so many examples. We could open it up to the phone lines now and say, tell me about the most ineffective meeting you were in. And somebody'd say, you mean today? But poorly run meetings cost money. To run an efficient meeting, it's a skill-based method. You know, you got to have skills, you got to have roles, you got to have a process to follow. And today we're going to cover all of these. We'll cover all of them in detail, and we'll open up for questions at the end there. Maybe. I apologize, everybody. All right. So first off, let's do some research. I asked the magic box, you know, what's the stats around inefficient meetings? This gets updated all the time, but research shows that employees spend about 25% of their time in meetings. If you look at the total time in a year, 2,080 hours at a 40-hour work week, it's a lot of time. And it also shows that about 25% of that time is inefficient. We're not productive in those meetings. We're talking, we're not taking action. We're not solving problems. And so, let's break down the math a little bit. And this math is pretty easy. Take total number of employees times 40 hours per week times 50 weeks, not 52. You're going to miss a couple here and there, but 50 weeks a year, times that 25% inefficiency. It is a big number. If you follow the example below it, 300-person organization, it ends up being 37,500 people hours of inefficiency. And so when you break that down per employee, that's 125 hours per employee. But, to me, 300 people is a pretty big organization. Is that a typical organization? If we go even smaller and look at a case study, and this is from one of our client partners, shout out to Ryan on sharing this with us. Ryan got pretty unhappy in his production company, his manufacturing company, had 11 people in a weekly ops meeting. They're spending 1.5 hours in length, and he ran the average pay of $21 an hour. And he's, Ryan's going, how much is this costing me? The meetings aren't well run. They overshoot their time. People aren't engaged. Actions aren't captured. Therefore, actions aren't followed up on. And here's the math. So you take that 11 employees, one meeting only, 11 employees, trying to solve for, the total hours, 75 hours in a 50-week time period, 825 hours as a whole. Then you times that times the average wage per hour. That's $21 in Ryan's case here, in his case study. And his cost was $17,325. This is where people really perk up. So I've done this in inefficient meetings where I'll go, do you know how expensive this meeting was right here? And people are like, what are you talking about? Average salary times this, you run it real quick and you go, this is what we spent. Did we get the return on our investment for this meeting? And so if you take that 25% of the time is inefficient, $4,331.25 of dollars per year. Some's thinking right now, is $4,000 really that expensive? And does this mean that we can't share birthdays in the beginning of that meeting or inclusion activities? No, not at all. If you're productive, use your time well, but also keep your morale high. But then if you take that $4,000 and you look at the rest of the meetings in your organization, and hopefully you're thinking about your own organization right now. I have a total of 25 employees. I have these standing meetings, 4 of them. Here's the amount of time. Here's the average wage. Here's our cost. So then you take, that's just one meeting that Ryan, shared with us. And how many more meetings are there? And how much money is really being wasted because of this inefficiency? So at the end of the day, if we're walking into a company, and here's typically what happens in manufacturing, people walk in and we all go to the concrete and we all look for saving time, and time is money, materials, labor, all on the concrete. But what we don't do is look at where are the other places are we spending or wasting money? And if you take one meeting and you shave off that 4,000 and another meeting and another meeting, this is where you really save money. We were working with another organization. They had 109 employees, and we were convincing them they needed to add a constraint operations meeting, a strategy meeting to manage their strategy to action, and then really huddles out on their floor. Said, you're talking about adding more meetings. I said, well, let's take inventory of all the other meetings that we're doing. An engineer broke out his pencil, looked at all the calendars, came back, and they slashed and burned meetings, and we fit those meetings into the right types of meetings. And we ended up saving 17 hours per person per week in meetings. Times average salary equals your total cost. Point is, they're costly. So we know the importance of running an efficient meeting. There is meetings all over the world right now being run inefficiently. But at the end of the day, it is a lever for cost, a lever for morale, and a lever for speeding up the belt, as Lucille Ball would say. So how do we do that? Well, what does an effective meeting look like? One is having an agenda pre-published to everybody else. Everybody deserves, if they're going to accept that meeting, they should have a pre-published agenda. In some organizations, like I came out of Intel Corporation, the rules of thumb were if there's not a pre-published meeting, you don't accept it. It's waste. There's 6 rules to be followed. We'll go through that. The meeting needs to start on time. It needs to end 5 minutes before of the meeting content to tidy up for the next meeting. What are the actions taking? When is the next meeting? And, who is going to be facilitating that? And then another piece is only the appropriate participants should be in that meeting. If you have 2 people from production, why do you have 2? If you have 2 engineers, you have 2 X, Y, and Z. Let's not, have the 2x2 on this one. Let's go to who's critical to being there, and let's do single point. And then they're in charge to communicating the output of that meeting to everybody else. There's roles in meetings you should have to run an efficient meeting. And then at the end of the day, you need to be capturing that meeting, documenting that meeting, publishing those minutes. So let's look at these 6 rules of running an efficient meeting. Separate the types of work. There's 2 types of work. Technically, this is called process and mission meetings. Process is a review of metrics to see how the company is doing or the department. It is not a problem-solving meeting or a working meeting. A mission-based meeting is a working meeting. It could be an after-action review. You were there to review how you performed a task or series of tasks, and you're after to solve the problem to see where we can get more efficient. So you're brainstorming, you're solving issues, you're discussing those. So you design your agenda around those 2 types of meetings. You never want to commingle those 2 types. Our brains can't take it. Process review in the next 30 minutes, we're going to solve a problem. If you do, put a break strategically in the center of that. Second rule to efficient meeting, schedule and manage each agenda item to a specific time frame. 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, make sure the presenter or the person that is leading that part of the meeting knows their time, and then equip them with some support. What does support look like? A gatekeeper. And we'll talk about that. Somebody watching the clock. Set who is expected to attend and set a minimum level. We were just in a meeting today with a major steel manufacturer, and we talked about setting a meeting quorum. If you don't have a quorum, you don't have the meeting. If we don't have somebody from project management in the meeting to review the projects that we're looking at our cost at, why hold the meeting? Pre-publish the agenda, talked about that. If it's a standing meeting, 1 to 5 days in advance. If it's a meeting that got scheduled this morning, publish the agenda immediately or draft the agenda when you decide with those participants that we need to meet at 2 o'clock. Clarify the decision-making is the 5th step in meetings. There's 3 types of this. Consensus, where we're going to talk for a bit and we're going to try to come to a decision as a group. Second, and that takes time. Second, consultative. The decision maker says, I would like your inputs, but at the end, I am the decision owner. An executive is the person that makes the decision right there in the meeting. So clarify the decision-making. To do that, you have to have a decision-making matrix for those meetings or for efforts in the organization. And 6, clarify the expected outcomes for each agenda item. Don't let an agenda item be on your meetings unless you have an expected outcome. Perform after-action review to understand what changed in the process that caused the quality incident. That is an expected outcome. If that is not met, then your meeting was not effective. So 6 rules of running an efficient meeting. Roles I've mentioned. There's 4 main types of roles. One is the facilitator. The facilitator is running and leading the entire meeting. If there is agenda items where I have my compadre Matt, or I have Elise or Hunter, my team member, and they're coming in and presenting, they are presenting on that agenda item, but I am facilitating the flow of the meeting and to make sure we get achieved what the meeting is for. Timekeeper. Timekeeper is watching the clock. You said, I'd like a volunteer to watch the time. This meeting agenda is going to be 15 minutes for this item. Give us the 2-minute warning. It's hard for a facilitator to watch the clock. And it's hard when a facilitator is trying to create a dialogue and a conversation and achieve the meeting outcome. We lose track of time. I know I do. So segregate these roles. A recorder or a scribe. Have somebody documenting the meeting. If your meeting is not being documented, you're not going to follow up on the items that come out of it. So have somebody documenting it. Also, not everybody may be in the meeting that wants to know or needs to know. You can send out those minutes. Third, if you're meeting in a standing meeting and you said, we've talked about this before, haven't we? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. I looked back in the minutes. So keep those minutes and you can create a template. Last, gatekeeper. The gatekeeper keeps people on track for their meeting segment. If it's 15 minutes, we're going to show the financials and look at our total cost, then give the 2-minute warning. Now, what if you're in a meeting with 3 people? Well, somebody's got to facilitate. Maybe you combine roles, but I assure you as a facilitator, it is hard to do all of these roles. Very hard, wearing numerous hats. Most of us are wearing numerous hats to run our businesses, let alone numerous hats in a meeting. So there's the roles for that. Let's get into decision-making. I've touched on it, but consensus or group participation. It's where the participants in the team, they're empowered to work through this decision and come to an agreement. Give a time frame. If that decision is being made in the meeting, say for the next 5 minutes, let's talk about what was presented, and the outcome in 5 minutes needs to be a decision. If that's rushing it, take it offline, assign a group to go off and have that conversation, and then come back and put the timeline when they're to come back with that decision. Consultative. This is where the decision maker wants input. So the leader obtains input from the team, and then at the close of the time or at close of the meeting, or when that is scheduled to be due, it is great. Thank you for your inputs. I will either A, make the decision here, or B, I will come back tomorrow at this date and time with the decision made. But it lies in the hands of the decision maker. You have to have a matrix for that. Lastly, executive, not looking for input. When it comes to sometimes in safety or urgent things, we're looking to our leaders, and our leaders wear different hats. Could be our lead machinist, or it could be our supervisor, or it could be the CEO. That is the executive person in that decision making, makes it without any input. That is typically something that is time bound or hypercritical. But understand the 3 types of decisions so you can be effective there. Question to be answered. What happens after the meeting or beyond the meeting? What needs to be done after the meeting is to ensure to get results. You have to have key decisions documented and actions required. Those are the actions that are taken in the meeting. You're talking about quality. You just discovered that you didn't follow procedure, or the procedure isn't accurate. Who owns the procedure? Shane raises his hand. When will you get that procedure done and updated? I will have that done by Friday at 3 o'clock. What day is Friday? Are you talking about this Friday or next Friday? This Friday at 3 o'clock. Okay, great. Facilitator says, please let me know if you're not on track or if that time gets pushed. And we're going to review it in this meeting that we meet 3 times a week on. So you want to capture those actions required. When you don't, people will miss their action items. We're all human. We're busy. We are overtasked. So, and make sure people understand the task they take out of the meeting. Another thing after the meeting, you can make this a really good standard practice. Ask people before you finish the meeting. If you're running an efficient one, you have 2 minutes left, make it part of your agenda. Let's go around the room on a scale of 1 to 10, making this up. How efficient was this meeting? Somebody says it was an 8. What would have made it a 10? Well, we started 10 minutes late because Shane, you as a facilitator, you were not prepared. Fair enough. Thank you for the feedback. I will not waste any more time. Remember, even if you're the leader running a meeting and you are not prepared, or you are spending more time than the agenda item, start thinking to yourself, how much did I just spend on this meeting? Times 11 people, times an average salary of $21 an hour, times. That'll get your attention. Last thing, meeting facilitator owner, they send out the minutes, they set the meetings, they prepare for the next efficient meeting. So after the meeting, there is things like these 3 here that must get done to make sure that you run the best meeting that you can. The basics in summary, and we have tons of time for questions because I'm running an efficient meeting today, I think, with 16 minutes and 5 seconds on the clock. How much time does a meeting cost? If you are interested in any of the tools that that we've talked about today, we'll send them to you. I'll send you the equation. I'll send you how to charter meetings. I'll send you a template. What we want to do is time is money, save you time so you can generate money. Run by the 6 rules of effective meetings. Assign meeting roles. There's 4 roles, and assign those right up front. They can rotate. Nobody likes writing minutes, but if you have a template that's easy and you just use bullets and you're not writing a novel, rotate it. Who would volunteer to take the minutes today? I will. When will the minutes get done? If you have somebody typing minutes during the meeting, give them 5 minutes after the meeting and send them immediately. Everybody loves it when they get the meeting sent back to them. And if you don't love it, it's in your inbox. If I say, oh, I didn't realize I took that action. The minutes are in your inbox. It was sent to everybody 5 minutes after the meeting. Next time, let's be a little bit more timely. That's called coaching. Charter every meeting. When we had that engineer do that, he looked at all the meetings that were chartered. What does chartered mean? What is the purpose of the meeting? Who is to attend in the meeting? What are the expected outcomes of the meeting? How long is the meeting? How long will the meeting last? A lot of times when we have, as an example, a quality issue in a production plant, and we fire up a meeting, we're going to review the quality review charts on the following defect. All of a sudden, the meeting never gets shut off. That meeting goes for years and years and years. And people go, why do we keep meeting on this? We haven't had that defect forever. They're like, I don't know. We never set a time when we were to kill the meeting or shut the meeting down. Capture and send the minutes. I said that. If you try to do it as a facilitator, good luck to you. I can't do it. I would ask somebody and create a template so it's easy for them and have them send it out. Evaluate the meeting. We talked about wasted time, wasted money. And then lastly, challenge, make it okay in your culture to challenge inefficient meetings. And leadership is not immune to this. If somebody says, hey, the gatekeeper says, no other way to say it, we're kind of in a rat hole right now. What is a rat hole? Where everybody just keeps talking. We're not, we've overshot the 15 minutes in the meeting. Let the gatekeeper said we're over our time. We need to move on to the next item. So please conclude. Make it okay for them to do that. Second, if somebody says, hey, the meetings that you run, Shane, they're ineffective. You tend to want to turn everything into an education series. I've gotten that feedback a lot from my team. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Be open to the feedback yourself. And then if you're going to give feedback to somebody, make sure you are running an effective meeting as well. It's tough enough to do when you add numerous people in a meeting, but time is money, and let's save that time and let's save that money. So a couple things on next steps, takeaways from this. One is, I highly recommend take inventory of all the meetings in your organization. Start with your standing meetings. Those are meetings that are reoccurring, and look at them. And I would invest some time to charter those meetings. Who's in the meeting? What's the purpose of the meeting? What's the length and duration of the meeting? How long will this effort last? How many days per week? All of that. Create a charter. If you need a template, reach out to us. We'll send it to you. I'll probably send you a real working example. So charter every meeting. If there's no charter, there's no meeting. Ensure the right people in the meetings. When people start to show up, hey, why are you here? Why is there 2 people from production? Well, I'd just like to be in the know. We'll send the minutes out to you. Or do you know your production supervisor's here and they're to be going into your huddle and talking about the production schedule for the next 2 weeks? Then I would hold that supervisor back or that scheduler back, whoever it is, and say, ask yourself, are you not communicating effectively? Is that what they're here? No, boss. They're here because I'm on vacation next week and I wanted them to understand the meeting. Well, why didn't you tell me, right? Next is develop more efficient communication forums. Ask yourself, can you compress your meetings down into a few select and put the agenda items from other meetings into those? Here's some example. Every client we work with as a partner, we overtake their leadership team and make that a strategic plan review meeting. They are reviewing their strategy to action twice a month to see if they're achieving their growth strategy. So that's a good example of an ongoing meeting with the leadership team. Another good example, daily management huddles, constraint management huddles, where the management team gets together every morning, 30 minutes after the shift, everybody walks on to the factory floor and understands how yesterday's performance was, what help the production floor needs, and then what leadership's going to do to respond to that. Another good example, daily work team huddles. This is where you're out on production floors, and huddles aren't meetings. If you're sitting, it's a meeting. If you're standing, it's less than 15 minutes, but they're going through a process meeting of safety, quality concerns, recognitions for their team, priorities for today, this week, and then what are we all working on? Ready, break. Everybody runs off to do their work, and at end of shift is a follow-up for accountability meeting. Another typical meeting is reviewing performance. Looking at our month-end performance, safety, quality, cost, output, employee morale, and looking at our KPIs, if that's what you use, and measuring what we do. So those takeaways, we have tools on every single one of these. We have processes. We don't make our living on selling efficient meetings. we give this away because it's simple, it's easy. But if you need help, we'll be glad to come in and help you with this. So I know I'm being dramatic with those terms, but at the end of the day, we want to help you be efficient and you spend your time on revenue generating activities. So that's the key takeaways. In the last 7 minutes here, I'm going to turn to my compadre, Matt. Is there any questions we have out there from participants today?
Yeah, it looks like we got a few here, Shane. So first one came up. You mentioned 4 different types of roles for an effective meeting: facilitator, timekeeper, scribe, and gatekeeper. Why can't one person do all of these?
Yeah, the easy answer is that's a lot to remember. You're watching a clock. You're looking at an agenda item. You're looking at the expected results of that, and you're trying to engage in the conversation or to engage others in the conversation. So it's a lot. So if there's, like I mentioned, if there's 3 people in the meeting, maybe you have a timekeeper and the gatekeeper play the same role, and you have somebody else taking the minutes and writing down what was captured in those action items. If it's larger than that, you're engaging people in the meeting, by the way, by doing this. So be careful. Don't take it all on yourself. Try one meeting. Try to do all those on your own. Believe me, it's a hard path to go.
Okay, next one up. Can you explain more about charting of meetings?
Yeah, that chartering, it's taking inventory just like you would out on your production floor. I want to see how many widgets at point of use at this workstation we have. And so if I knew that 25% of meetings are inefficient, that's waste. Times 11 people, that equals $4,000 a year I can save. I'm open to save money everywhere, except for on resources to help make money, on people, on equipment. So I would go out, look at every meeting you have, and they must have an official charter. People will fire up meetings and you don't even know they're happening. So the question's back to the group. Should you know about the meetings as a leader in your organization? And then should you demand, knowing what's happening in those meetings and what the expected outcomes are? Demand's a strong word, but when money's at stake, save the money. So charter all those meetings. And if somebody wants a template or example, we'll send it to them. Next question.
Yep. Can you give some examples of the 3 different types of decision-making in meetings?
Yeah, a good example could be, remember, those 3 are consensus or a group decision. So that could be, hey, it's the holiday season, right? Last year, as a leader, I chose where we ate dinner, and I chose what I liked. So I'd like to open it up to group discussion, and I'd like to come up with a team decision on what we do for the holiday and what restaurant we use. People say, well, somebody might say, and in that brainstorm of, well, we have a vegan in the group and we have somebody has celiac. So we got to choose wisely on our menu. That's where you're letting the team, empowering the team. They're making those decisions. It could even be how many people are comfortable skipping that quality step based off the data that we just saw. It could be that, but they come up with that group decision. The next level, where you're getting input from people, it's called consultative decision making. It would sound like this in a meeting. I'm the decision maker on this topic. What I'd like to do is spend 5 minutes getting your input on what we should do on, we've identified 35 statements of work out there, 35 standard work items out there. They all need worked on. I'd like to brainstorm what the 3 priorities are for the production floor right now. Let's spend the next 5 minutes. They give feedback. Thank you for your decision. We've came out with 6 of those. I'm going to choose the top 3 based off of what I heard today. That is consultative. Executive. Walk in a meeting, said, I've looked at our month-end close. We are spending, make it near and dear to my heart. I've looked at 5 meetings. We're losing on average of $22,000 a year on just spending with meetings. I've made an executive decision that every meeting agenda must be published in advance. There must be people that carry the 4 roles in these meetings. There must be chartering of that meeting, lest we don't hold those meetings, and a minimum amount of attendance, and that is published in advance. That is the decision I have made. So those meetings that we have, the 5 facilitators are the following. Each one of you needs to bring back a charter to me by Monday. That's an executive decision I've made based off of cost. So hopefully that helps with some decisions near and dear to the topic or the holiday season that we're in. Other questions?
Yep, we really struggle with consistent attendance in our meetings. What would you suggest?
Yeah, first I would suggest, what is a quorum in your meeting charter? Who must be in the meeting to hold the meeting? Then you have to be diligent on a rule. So if you don't have a quorum, we don't meet. Everybody shows up at 8 o'clock. We decide that we have to have the process engineer here. We have to have the production manager, the master scheduler, the CFO, the CEO, and the sales estimator. That's the quorum. If we don't reach that quorum, we don't have a meeting. The process engineer does not show up and we don't know why or where. It's nothing we could have predicted to send a delegate to because they're on vacation. And so we'd say, we don't have a quorum, we're not meeting today. It's not worth it. When do we reschedule the meeting? You make that decision and then you go find that process engineer and say, hey, this is really vital. Yeah, I had something happen on the floor. We had a quality issue and I didn't have a chance. It's okay, but we didn't have a quorum. Tomorrow the meeting has been rescheduled. Please make it on time. Okay.
Great.
Other questions?
Yep, can you elaborate a little bit more on the two different types of meetings, a decision-making meeting versus a working meeting?
Yeah, there's process meetings, mission meetings. Process meetings, you're reviewing outcomes. You're looking at, the example I use is, what was yesterday's performance of our company? How much did we ship? Was it on time? Did we have any quality incidents, any safety or potential safety issues? So you're reviewing the outcomes of a day, and you're not solving a problem or you're not doing mission work. A mission meeting is exactly that. You are there, to fix something, to improve something. So in the following 90 minutes of this meeting, we have chosen 3 priorities to do standard work on out of the 6. Today, we are focusing on the standard operating procedure of X, and at end of 90 minutes, we are going to have our first revision of that standard work done. The owner of that standard work is going to be Jim. Jim is going to document it as we go today, and then we will have our first revision. That is a mission meeting where we're solving a problem. If you mix both together, your brain can't do this. The people can't make that switch. If you're in a 4-hour meeting and part of it's going to be a process review, and then we got to take that data and make decisions, take a break. Let's take a 15-minute break, go check your email, go to the restroom, get some nourishment. When we come back, we are going to take the data that we just reviewed and we are going to solve this problem and make a decision. So it's the 2 types of meetings. I would love to keep going with another question, but I have 9 seconds left on my shot clock to run an efficient meeting and efficient webinar. Again, if you need tools, let us know, and we will see you next time.